Welcome to part two of naming young global leaders and other Australians tied to the World Economic Forum. I want to start by telling you about the Australian arm of the World Economic Forum. So it's called the ADC Forum, and that stands for the Australian Davos Connection. It's headquartered in Melbourne, and it was created in 1996 to help promote the World Economic Forum within Australia. It is an exclusive invitation-only organisation for the most prominent of Australians to help carry out and fulfil the vision and agenda of the World Economic Forum. So I want to jump into that, and then I will pick up where we left off in part one and continue naming some more Australian young global leaders. So this is the Australian arm of the World Economic Forum. This is it. This is the organisation that is the facilitator for all of the key players that want complete control over the rest of us Australians, the 99.9%. If you have ever wondered how they operate here in Australia, how they plan, how they do this right under our noses, this is it. Let's have a look at what their website says. An independent think tank. So the ADC Forum is an Australian non-political, not-for-profit leadership organisation which brings together leaders from business, government, the public sector, academia, and the broader community to improve their understanding of key issues affecting Australia. The ADC Forum was originally founded in 1996 to promote the World Economic Forum within Australia, promote Australia's interest within the broader World Economic Forum community, and share the richness of ideas within the World Economic Forum community to a wider Australian audience. To achieve its mission, the ADC Forum has developed an integrated model of high-profile events, industry-specific initiatives, information exchange, international delegations, and a leadership awards program. ADC Forum's flagship initiative is the Australian Leadership Retreat, convened annually. This invitation-only 2.5-day retreat brings together federal cabinet ministers from Australia, public servants from Asia, state premiers and senior ministers, chief executives from companies across Australasia, senior government officials, leading local and international academics, and other community leaders to discuss the key issues affecting the nation, the wider region, and the international community. ADC Forum also offers a range of other initiatives ranging from boardroom roundtables and briefings, corporate government consultations, such as the Canberra Connection, to high-profile summits focusing on critical issues such as health, education, engineering, economic development, and the frontier of technologies. The more you find out about the ADC Forum, the more you will understand how all of our key industries and government here in Australia have been operating in complete lockstep, especially in the last couple of years. And you will realise the depth of it even more as you explore this organisation. Its members, its partners, it just goes deeper and deeper. And you may even wonder why it is that we haven't heard any of our politicians mention the ADC Forum before, especially the ones that say that they're fighting for our freedom and that they're against all of this. Is it possible that they're just unaware? You know, you may wonder, how has this eluded them? So the ADC membership, if you look under this section, it expands further on the perks of being a part of this private network, such as high-level dinners, boardroom lunches, workshops, an exceptional opportunity to contribute to shaping the future, the 2.5-day annual Australian Leadership Retreat, the Canberra Connection, a special confidential briefing by ministers in Parliament House held annually with other political leaders and department secretaries, invitations to monthly members-only boardroom lunches with eminent guests. Gatherings include a lunch with the Governor of the Reserve Bank of Australia, invitations to leadership tours to meet senior business and government leaders and key innovators, invitations to expert working groups developing industry-led discussions towards the ADC Forum program, invitations to overseas roundtables and business missions. It says that you can register your interest, but it states that it's invitation only, that you need to actually be invited. So let's have a look at who is on the board. So there's Sir Ninian Stephen. So he was the Governor General of Australia from 82 to 89. And prior to that, he was a Justice of the High Court of Australia. And then there is Michael Jeffrey. He was the Governor of WA from 93 to 2000, and then the Governor General of Australia from 03 to 08. And then you've got Jeannie Pratt. So she was married to billionaire Richard Pratt, the founder of Visy Industries, which is known as Pratt Industries in the USA. And Visy is the world's largest privately owned packaging, recycling and paper company. So in the year before Richard's death in 2009, he was Australia's fourth richest person. Visy, as you can see here on the screen, is also a World Economic Forum organisation. So their son, billionaire Anthony Pratt, is currently the third richest person in Australia and was also the former president of the Carlton Football Club. He has attended Davos in Switzerland several times. He's also a member of the Climate Group, which was founded by young global leader Tony Blair, and also a member of Mikhail Gorbachev's Global Green USA and Bill Clinton's Global Initiative. So just like Anthony, all of the people associated with the Australian arm of the World Economic Forum are the richest and the most high-profile people in the country. So the next person on the list is Michael Roux. So he is the former director and chairman of KPMG. Remember that name, because I'll expand on KPMG a little later on. So same with AsiaLink. These companies come up a lot. So AsiaLink is actually affiliated with Melbourne Uni. You can read all about Michael here on his World Economic Forum member profile. He holds and has held so many positions with all of the main corporate players, Citigroup, Deutsche Bank, Vic Super, but most importantly, he has been the advisor and ambassador with the World Economic Forum for over 20 years. And he's also a chair on the Global Agenda Council on the Future of Australia, and also a member for the Yale Centre for Environmental Law and Policy. And then the CEO of the ADC Forum is Anton Roux, which I believe is actually Michael Roux's son. So the list of board members is quite large. So I can't go through every single one of them right now in detail. I would be here for hours, if not days, but you may recognize some of the names like Richard Alston. So he was the former High Commissioner of Australia to the UK. There's Steve Bracks, former Premier of Victoria. Tim Costello. So he was the CEO of World Vision Australia until 2019. The former mayor of St Kilda and a strong advocate for global citizenship. And of course, his brother is Peter Costello, who was the longest serving treasurer of Victoria from 96 to 07. And you may already be aware that Peter Costello is a young global leader of the class of 98. And he's been now on the board for Nine Entertainment since 2013. You may also notice that with many of these people, they have AO, AM, or AC after their names. And in case you don't know what that means that they've been awarded an Order of Australia medal. So there's James Roche from Ramsay Healthcare, the Honorary Andrew Robb. The list is quite extensive. I definitely recommend having a look at all these people. Then you get to the international faculty, and these are the members who aren't Australian. So although I'm not going to do a rundown on these people either, I will say that they are some of the most prominent, well-connected, powerful, richest people in the world. And here they are in our country helping the World Economic Forum agenda along. So, there's many more. They don't have a public list of all of their members anymore. So they just list these members, the board members and whatnot. But if you take a look around their website, you will find clues. So, for example, under the speaker lineup for the recent 2022 Australian Leadership Summit, You'll find names like, Larry Marshall, Chief Executive of CSIRO, Professor Brian Schmidt, the Vice Chancellor and President of the Australian National University, good old Gareth Evans, the former Attorney General of Australia, and he was a minister of so many different departments. Just go through these people here. And this is just one page of speakers. Jamie Susskind, so he's the author of Future Politics, Living Together in a World Transformed by Tech. And you can go to other pages with speakers on them and you'll see other people, Kevin Rudd, and so on and so forth. And there was a more extensive list in the past that I've seen on this site. And like I said, they've removed them, but they did include and do include people like billionaire Michael Cannon-Brookes. So he's the 4th richest person in Australia. Also, the 2nd richest person in Australia, Andrew Forrest. Another billionaire, Melanie Perkins. She was a young global leader of 2019. So her and her husband are actually owners of Canva, and their wealth has skyrocketed in the last 2 years, like many, many others. So they're now 8th and 9th joint position of the wealthiest people in Australia. You've also got members here for the ADC Forum, Leanne Kemp. So she co-chairs the World Economic Forum's Global Future Council. She's a World Economic Forum agenda contributor. She's the founder and CEO of Everledger, as well as being on the board for the IBM Blockchain Board of Advisors, the World Trade Board, and so much more. Catherine P. Foley, who I talked about in part 1, she's the Chief Scientist of Australia. Julia Gillard, former Prime Minister. Simon Birmingham, the Trade Minister for Australia. Billionaire Solomon Lew, so from the Century Plaza Group. Andrew Robb, as you saw before, Minister for Trade and Investment. Kevin Rudd, Bob Carr, Jason Lee Yat-sen, Greg Hunt. There's hundreds more. Have a look around the site. And one other thing you should definitely be checking out is there a partners and associations section. So especially under their international network. So you've got, Tourism and Events Queensland, and you've got a few other ones, Australian National University, of course. But when you get down here to these organisations, these are the corporations running our country. There is absolutely no denying that we are under corporate governance. And I urge you to take the time to have a look at each and every single one of these organisations so you can really understand what we are up against. So picking up where we left off in part 1 with naming Australian young global leaders. So class of 97, there was Lachlan Murdoch, and he obviously is the son of billionaire Rupert Murdoch, who is also a World Economic Forum member. So he's actually worked closely with the World Economic Forum for many, many years, and so have the 3 of his children from his second marriage, Elizabeth, Lachlan, and James. So as I said, Lachlan Murdoch is a young global leader of 1997, and Elizabeth was a young global leader of 1999. And although James was not a young global leader, he's attended Davos several times. But I just want to talk about Rupert for a little bit. So as most people would know, if you live in Australia, you know who Rupert Murdoch is. He controls influential news organisations on 3 continents. And what you may not know about Rupert is that he was instrumental in Gough Whitlam becoming the Prime Minister of Australia in 1972. So Rupert actually threw all of his growing power at the time behind the Australian Labor Party getting elected. So using his newspapers to reshape scepticisms about Gough Whitlam's loyalties, given that he had a very privileged background. And Rupert also reframed any negative opinions on Gough Whitlam's relationships with Chinese officials, who he went to visit in 1971 in Beijing. Amongst the Chinese officials he met with was, hope I pronounce this correct, Zhou Enlai, who was the first premier of the People's Republic of China and who helped the Communist Party rise to power, helping to consolidate its control, form its foreign policy and develop the Chinese economy. On that same visit, Gough Whitlam also met with Henry Kissinger's staff, and he had received a lot of flack about this. And Rupert Murdoch was able to use his newspapers to transform public opinion into making Gough Whitlam instead look like an international statesman and make anyone who questioned these occurrences as being paranoid. And Whitlam actually returned yet again to China after he became the prime minister and was once again criticised. And once again, Murdoch's newspapers reshaped the narrative and didn't report on important issues such as his bad spending habits, along with the increase in imports by 30% under his watch, which actually increased Australia's trade deficit by $1.5 billion, which was a heck of a lot of money back then. Also, there were primary producers of commodities like beef who were caught in a credit squeeze, and interest rates rose extremely high, unemployment rose significantly. And even with all of that happening, Gough Whitlam went on to sort, overseas loans and went on to announce additional spending to help the private sector. So very much about funneling money into the private sector and out of Australian hands. And he fulfilled some very important orders from the globalists while Rupert kept it all out of the media. And I know a lot of people by now are aware that whilst Gough Whitlam was prime minister, the wording on our banknotes actually changed from saying the Commonwealth of Australia to just Australia. So he did some really good things, especially back then. People didn't tolerate what they do now. So he, of course, the front that he put on, he fulfilled the demands of a lot of Australians. And, for the most part, he seemed really fantastic. But behind the scenes, there were a lot of changes going on while he was in power. So he actually went on to work for the UN, not surprisingly. In 1983, he was appointed as Australia's ambassador to UNESCO, serving 3 years there defending UNESCO against allegations of corruption. And then he went on to earn a place on the executive board for another 3-year term until 1989. Anyway, getting back to the Murdoch children, you may also find it interesting that James Murdoch's wife, Catherine, has actually been working for the Clinton Climate Initiative since 2008. So she's playing a huge role in the climate change agenda. And she says she was actually first inspired by the former Vice President and World Economic Forum agenda contributor, Al Gore, at a talk that he did at the Fox Retreat in 2006, which was a slideshow that had just been turned into the documentary An Inconvenient Truth. So she works with the group Unite America. She openly admits that herself and James have invested, not donated, but invested hundreds of millions of dollars in funding toward the larger plan. Catherine also joined the board of the Environmental Defence Fund, and they are a group that collaborates with industry on climate change issues. And in 2014, her and James created the Quadrivium Foundation to fund all of their programs. Another Australian young global leader for the class of 1997 was the former Chief of Staff to the Prime Minister, Nicole Fearley. So Nicole held the position between March 96 and June 97 when John Howard was the Prime Minister. The Chief of Staff to the Prime Minister is the principal advisor and head of the Prime Minister's office. She also served as Chief Executive of Western Australia's South Metropolitan Health Service and Victoria's St Vincent Health, and was the ACT Health Director General from 2015 to 2018. She worked at the Victorian Employers Chamber of Commerce and Industry. However, the most important aspect of Nicole's career is that she was a partner for health at KPMG, which is a World Economic Forum partner organisation. So they are a private company, and it's not even Australian. It has a lot of influence and power in Australia and also 144 other countries. So they employ more than 236,000 people, although on here it says 227,000 people worldwide throughout business, governments, public sector agencies and non-for-profits. And as one investigates this company, you soon learn that they are in fact also a network. So a network that was formed in 1987, but the history of KPMG prior to that worldwide network runs deeper and a lot further back, all the way to the year 1891. You may be interested to know that the Mayor of Melbourne, Sally Capp, has also held senior roles at KPMG. And under their corporate citizenship agenda, they say that they are empowering positive change for our communities, focusing their efforts on Indigenous Australia, mental health, climate action, and lifelong learning. So nice of them. So they say that underpinning our approach are the UN Sustainable Development Goals, a global blueprint to achieve a better and more sustainable future for people and planet. By following the SDG framework, business will prosper. When we acknowledge the interdependency of our world and bring everyone on the journey, we mitigate risk, open up new markets, and bring hope to future generations. It's all about sustainable development as you look through their site. So under their global goals, they talk about these goals, 17 sustainable development goals. So they say in January 2016, 193 UN member states started working towards a new set of 17 sustainable development goals aimed at making our world more prosperous, inclusive, sustainable, and resilient. These global goals are an ambitious plan of action for people, planet, and prosperity. They are universal, applying to all nations and people, seeking to tackle inequality and leave nobody behind. The ambition is to end extreme poverty and hunger by 2030. Then they go on to talk about their commitments and that they've signed up to the 10 principles of the UN Global Compact and the Sustainable Development Goal Business Manifesto, and so on. These are their partners. Like KPMG, most are also World Economic Forum partners and have also been founded or created by World Economic Forum members, including many young global leaders. It is worth checking out these companies, and a lot of people would already know IBM, Microsoft, Google, Salesforce, ServiceNow. I'm going to leave it here for now for part 2. There is one more young global leader of 97 that I wanted to squeeze in, but I will include that in part 3. So stay tuned for part 3.